I'm Rob Campbell. My business card actually says biological oceanographer. But, I'm going to be talking about some stuff that I've been doing in Copper River the last couple, 3 years with some support from the Copper River Prince Williamstown Marketing Association. Let's see here. All right, back it up. This is the Copper River Watershed. I expect there's more knowledge in this room about the Copper River Watershed than I'll ever have, but just as a brief introduction, it's a big-ish river system in the grand scheme of things. The watershed's about the size of West Virginia. It's the largest point source of fresh water to the northern Gulf of Alaska. And this is an anadromous waters map. Doesn't show up too well, but every red bit of stream is an anadromous stream. And then every lake also has a little dot on it. So many salmon stocks return to the river every year, as we know. And they have pretty far to go, upwards of 400 or 500 miles they have to swim. And they also have to swim upwards of 3,000 feet at the height of the watershed, which is a long way. And that's a really good evolutionary pressure to have a lot of fat. And that's what makes them delicious as well. Copper River sockeye and king runs are also the first major fishery to the market every year, and they command a real price premium. And the Copper River Prince Williamstown Marketing Association, the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute, and the processors have really done a great job of marketing the Copper River fish as a primo product that people pay a lot of money for. I don't know of any other fisheries where the fish get red carpet treatment in Seattle. And just to highlight that, this is sockeye on the left, Chinook on the right. And I just totaled up for the last 10 years or so the total catch, the landed value, and the value per fish. The Copper River is, in the closest I could get to copper color, Bristol Bay is in red, Upper Cook Inlet's in blue, and Southeast is in green. And the sockeye here is obviously dominated by Bristol because they get so many fish coming back. But these two lines here on the top are the Copper River, and that's the value per fish. That's how much, on average, fishermen are getting when they're delivering their catch. So big money fish. Here is the Copper River Delta we know and love. Hopefully everybody knows the fishery is happening down in the ocean around the barrier bars. But the escapement estimates that are made by the state that tells them about how many fish have entered the river are actually done up at Miles Lake. They have a sonar weir with a sonar on either bank, and they count the fish as they pass. And this is a complication for the fisheries managers. That's the only information they have of fish in the river. They also obviously have the fishermen's catches as well. But when they're trying to figure out whether they should allow a fishing opener or not, their fish that they counted have had to swim something like 35 river miles before they've counted them. And so they're gone from the fishery. So the managers have to be kind of precautionary when they're deciding whether or not to let people fish. And oftentimes that means more fish pass up into the river than they would have liked. It's a little grainy, but this is the escapement of sockeye and Chinook in Copper River. So the fish that have escaped the fishery into the watershed from 2004 to last year. And these dashed lines here are the sustainable escapement goals. It's the targets that the fisheries managers are trying to hit for fish that are getting away from the fishery. And this top one here is actually the maximum. This is the minimum right here. And so you can see in the last few years, they have let more fish go than the maximum. And so that gap there is what causes unrest. That's what has Bill Ayers going into Jeremy Boates' office very upset that these fish have gotten away from the fishery. And to them, it's lost value, which is fair. So in 2015, I was talking to some board members from the Copper River Prince Williamstown Marketing Association about this. They are a regional fisheries development association. They're the marketing association, so that's their primary goal. But also within their purview is activities to increase fishing opportunities for fishermen. And it was actually Jeff Bailey, who's the head of the board, told me that there was a lot of interest in maybe having a sonar in the lower river to try and count fish in that early part of the season to get more information to the managers so that there would be more chances to go fishing. And the way he put it to me was like, if this led to one more opener, it would basically pay for the project. If you think about it, one more opener, say about 50,000 fish at $20 a fish is $1.5 million. That's a lot of money. And I don't know the full history of it. I don't think it's written down, so I've sort of pieced it together from talking to people and from some unpublished reports. There was a try to do some counting at Flag Point, 27 Mile on the Copper River a few years ago, with some success. They were using sonars just like the state does. But the river's been moving east the last decade or more. That's why our highway now ends at 36 Mile and not at the glacier anymore. And so the 27 Mile channel seems to be drying up. And so it looks like the fish aren't using it so much anymore. Also, the reports I've been getting from the fishery is that down at Soft Tub on the eastern side of the delta is where all the activity is. I heard that the state had actually tried to do some index gill netting down in the lower part of the Copper River. And actually, I did a little bit of that this summer to collect some samples with a colleague, and it was terrifying. I totally understand why they don't do that regularly. So anyway, the Marketing Association indicated to me that they were interested in this, and so I looked into it, and I found there was basically two problems. One was that we had no idea if it would work, and the second was these sonars cost about 90 grand, and the Marketing Association didn't have that much money, and people generally won't give you that much money if they don't know what you're going to do is going to work. So in 2015, we put together a little pilot project for very little money. And I basically wrote and called some sonar manufacturers who made sonars that are a little cheaper than the ones the state used, and said, hey, can I borrow them and try them out? And 3 of them actually said yes, and sent us up some sonars. So the first thing we did was we went up to Miles Lake and set them up alongside the state sonar. So just to situate you, this is the southern bank. They actually have one on the other bank. They have a nice concrete pad with these rails they use to mount their sonar. They have a little weir here that pushes the fish away from the bank so that they go into the sonar beam. And this is their sonar here. It's called a Ditson. It's basically the standard for fisheries acoustics, but costs 90 grand. And then here alongside are the loaners I got. This one was called an Imaginex. It was a 260 kilohertz multi-beam sounder. So 260 kilohertz is kind of similar to what most of the boats in the fleet here have. They're often running around 200 kilohertz. I should mention the Ditson runs around 1,000 kilohertz. So 5 times higher frequency than your average boat, which means 5 times more resolution. That's about a quarter of the resolution of like a ultrasound that they use for medical things. When you're using sound and things, basically the higher the frequency, the better the resolution, but the shorter distance it goes. So it's kind of a trade-off. So anyway, we did 260 kilohertz. This guy's called the Gemini. It was 720 kilohertz. And then this one was called a Pico sonar, and it was 500 kilohertz. And we basically just put them in the river right beside the state sonar and let them run at the same time that the state sonar was running, so we could see if they worked the same way. And so here's a little bit of a video from that. So this is the state Ditson on the left. You can see some of the fish passing. This is why these are called imaging sonars. They sample so quickly that it's basically like a video. I've sped this up a little bit till the other sonars start. It's not quite dark enough in here, is it? This is that Gemini sonar I mentioned, 720 kilohertz, and then this is the Imaginex. The other sonar, the Pico sonar, only worked on a tablet, and I wasn't able to get any video from it, but it basically never saw any fish. So you can see the fish swimming by in the Ditson pretty clearly, and you may have to take my word for it. You can see them passing by on the Gemini. And in Imaginex, we never really saw any fish passing, which was too bad. But when I sat down and basically counted fish passing on the Ditson and counting fish passing on the Gemini and lined them up, I got a pretty good one-to-one relationship. So this is the number of counts with the Gemini, and this is the counts with the state Ditson. This is the one-to-one line, which is basically where you want to see things showing up. Yes?
How much did the Gemini one cost?
Those are, they're made in England, so they're getting cheaper all the time. They're around $35,000. Yeah, and I spent some time staring at those videos, and it's kind of interesting. Sometimes the state sonar would see fish that the Gemini missed, but sometimes the Gemini would see fish that the state sonar missed. So neither are perfect, but they're both seeing about the same thing. So good. We at least had established that we could see fish passing about the same way that the state guys were doing. So the next step was to then try our luck down in the lower part of the river to see if we could actually see fish down where we wanted to work, because there's not a nice concrete pad there, say. So here's the spot down at the mouth of the Clear Martin River. Doesn't really show up too well. And this is a picture that Troy Terrell took in late April of 2015. This is the mouth of the Clear Martin River is right here. This is looking north up the delta towards Miles Lake, which is right up there. This is where the main channel kind of crosses across the delta. That's Park Island there. And some people call it Nirvana. It's the big sand hills you can see from the highway. But this was promising. So in the early part of the season, most of the river appears to be going through this site, which is kind of important. And so I went down there and drove around with the skiff with a depth sounder going and did a quick and dirty little bathymetry survey, which is what this is. The colors are just the depth in feet. And then the white is just where the skiff was. And so it's upwards of 20 feet deep at the deepest spot, right by the cut bank. But there was a couple kind of promising spots where it looked kind of shallow, where we could get basically an entire sonar beam sampling the entire river. And then I tried sitting with the Gemini mounted on the boat at a few of these spots and just watched for fish to pass, and it was dead simple. It was just off the back of the skiff. I actually found a little piece of alder that had fallen into the river that was kind of like the weir that the state uses to push the fish out of the way. And this was July, so you'll notice that the river is quite high. But we did see some fish passing, so we're fairly sure that this was actually going to work. So in 2016, the Marketing Association decided that they were willing to actually try an operational deployment. So we were able to rent a Ditson, which is just like the state uses, from a colleague at Florida International University. And we set up a camp at that spot on the Clear Martin where it looked like we'd be able to count fish. Just a simple little camp. We had a tent for the computers for the sonars. You can actually zoom in and see the sonar. It's similar to what the state does at their site at Miles Lake. So we had a little frame with the sonar on it, and then we had a little weir that Mike Maxwell made for us for free to push the fish out of the way. So yeah, like I said, it was a Ditson sonar. We did the same protocol as the state. It would run the top 10 minutes of the hour, every hour, and then we would count that and basically multiply by 6 to get an hourly count. We don't have the money that the state does. They actually have 3 people up there, and somebody is watching the sonars at all times. We could only afford 2 technicians. But in the lower river, we don't have to worry about icebergs wiping out our sonars, so they don't have to be watched all the time. And this cut bank site, we could kind of put it in a back eddy where even a tree coming down is not going to wipe out our sonar. So we were actually able to mostly automate the collection of the sonar data. The running of the sonar was automatic. All of the processing was also automatic. So after the 10 minutes, there was a bunch of routines that would run to save, archive high-quality data. Then it would make a compressed video, basically using the same algorithms that people use for pirating videos on the internet. And then it would send it out via cellular data modem to a server here. So the videos were actually available for anybody to look at, you, the state, whoever, generally within 20 minutes of them being taken, which is kind of cool. That's the nice thing of Copper Valley Wireless having cellular data on the Delta. And it was actually kind of good for us too, because I could monitor things remotely. So I got up in the middle of the night one night to go to the bathroom and thought I'd look at the sonars and they were running. So I texted my text, "Hey, wake up! Something's not working." So we were able to effectively do it with fewer people, which is kind of neat.
Rob, can you zoom out again and see so we can see where it is in the big scale?
Like in the really big scale?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that Copper Valley or is that Cordova Wireless that has the big antenna? I thought it was Cordova Wireless.
Yeah, Cordova Wireless has the site at Flex Point. And the data isn't super fast, unfortunately, but it could work.
So you're using Copper Valley.
Wait, did I say Cordova?
You say Copper Valley.
Sorry, Cordova Wireless.
Just to make sure you got the right plug-in.
Yes. Oh, we paid them lots of money.
Yeah, and
Copper
Valley.
So you're asking the.
Yes.
Actually, I should have mentioned. So it's about 10 river miles from the Berry Bars instead of 35. So let's see here. Zoom back down.
So Rob, for setting things up, did you go north or did you go south?
Setting things up.
Yeah, when you set up the camp, when you set up the, did you float down to the camp or did you run out?
Oh, we came down the last 3 years. We haven't had much snow out there. We paid Jack Stevenson a large amount of money to airboat down there. But last spring was so benign. It was pretty funny when we dropped them off. It was miserable. The techs really could clearly tell they were kind of wondering if they'd made the right choice. But a week later, I just went down in my jet boat, and they were in shorts and t-shirts and no shoes on, like they were at the beach. Hopefully that'll happen again. Yeah, I guess I can talk to you later. I would wonder how easy it would be to come north from below because it's so braided. Yeah. Right. Sonar. This is just an example of this is the daily count sheet, which we would update every day. We also had hourly count sheets that we would update a couple of 3 times a day to the website. So again, anybody could look if they were so inclined. I saw they're taking it to windows around town. So we aren't just sending it to the state. We're trying to make it available to whoever is interested. And these are the results. These are the counts that we collected. That's this top panel. And then down below, this is the state's Miles Lake sonar. And it's time on the bottom. So we turned the sonars on May 4, and we ran them to June 1. And so the 2 figures are lined up. And I just showed, it's the same counts shown different ways. So the blue is the hourly counts. That's sort of the raw data. That's what we count, what the state counts. The green is in 6 hourly counts. I'm just summing across 6 hours. And then the red is daily counts. So it's just different ways of looking at the same data. And you can see there's a lot going on in the hourly data that gets kind of washed out in the daily data.
Rob,
Yes?
your sonar array, was that below the mouth of the clear margin?
Yes.
Okay, so the top graph, you've got this peak much earlier than the rest of the peaks
Thank you for mentioning that. I was
So
about
are
to-
those fish going up to market then, fair market?
We have no idea.
But I mean, that's a possibility.
It's certainly a possibility. Yeah, it's a clear stream, so we could
Right.
put a camera on it if we were concerned. Yeah, nobody's really raised any worries about that. I think, given the system, most of the fish we're counting are going to be cruising right on by and carrying on up the river.
But the timing's gonna be off 5 to 7 days too, right? I mean, theoretically, okay,
Yeah, I guess that, perfect.
sorry.
Yeah, so the cool thing is this peak that Pete pointed out. It happened very quickly and it happened very early, and it actually made it easy for Jeremy to have some openers then. So the funder was very good. Though I also need to point out that the axes here are quite different. So this axis is 10 times what this is. So we were not counting nearly as many fish as they were up the river. So yeah, we were getting order of 1,000 fish per day, while they were getting like 10,000 fish per day, which is a problem. Obviously, they have sonars on both banks. We just had one bank, and maybe we picked the wrong bank. We did also, when the count started to drop off, the techs called me up and said, "You're pretty sure there's a sandbank forming in the middle of the river that's shading the sonar?" So in mid-May, we actually wound up having to take up the whole camp and move it down the river a couple hundred yards to a different spot that seemed to be working a little better. So a little bit of a learning curve there. So yeah, obviously one bank won't count as many fish. As well, I got the discharge data from USGS. And so this is both the same data. This is basically the river year, and then this is just when we had the sonars out on the right. The gray dots are actual observations. The black squiggly line is just daily averages, and then the blue smooth line is just a curve I fit to give an idea of what the average ought to be. And then the red line is 2016, so the section, it's taken from stage height, but they convert it to discharge. And for the latter part of our deployment, the river was higher than average. And obviously, with it being a heavily graded delta, when the water comes up, more channels come online, so the fish have more options. So we may have picked a bad year as well.
Rob, another possibility is when you have a peak, did that coincide with the troughs in your accounts by any chance? Those individual little dips or peaks in the flow?
Discharge?
Yes, because it will inhibit salmon migration. They
Right.
tend to go upstream when the hydrograph is going down, and so will ultimately behave a little bit.
Right. So they hang out in the ocean for longer,
Or hang out behind a point or someplace where they can not spend as much energy.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, so the other thing we were trying to do was, who mentioned that, get an idea of the time it takes to go from our site to Miles Lake. And I kind of broke the Marketing Association's board while trying to explain this to them, so I made a little animation. I kind of broke my brain trying to do it with words. So this is just a little cartoon. You can consider this a bunch of fish in a river, and they're going to go past point A, which you can think of as the Clear Martin, and then point B in, say, the Miles Lake site. So just with every time step, they're going forward, and then I'm just counting the number of fish that went past each point, and it's color-coded red for A and blue for B. So as time goes on, you start seeing those fish going past, get that out of there, point A, but nothing at point B, and then they're starting to show up at point B, and it's sort of diminishing at point A. Should have made this run a little faster. So it's the same fish. I did actually throw in a little random thing, so some of the fish disappear between A and B, so the curves aren't exactly the same. But it's pretty clear. We know they're the same fish, so we can get an idea of the lag time by looking at the difference between those two curves. But just doing the calibrated thumb it doesn't really work. So what we do is something called a lag correlation, and I will try to explain it to you thusly. So we have our curves here again, and then on the top here I'm showing the relationship between the 2 points. So this is the number of fish passing at point A and the number of fish passing at point B. And so the dots are kind of the relationship between those 2 points at some point in time. And before I go on that, I thought I should do a really quick primer on what a correlation is. It's just a way to relate to any two quantities, right? So this panel here, this is a positive correlation, so when thing A goes up, thing B goes up as well. And this is a perfectly straight line, and so we have something we call R, which is a correlation coefficient, and it goes from -1 to 1. So 1 means it's a positive correlation, and it's basically a perfect relationship. When A is 10, B is 10. When A is 20, B is 20, and so forth. This is a negative correlation here, so when one is going up, the other is going down. And here I just introduced a little bit of random noise into it, some scatter, and that's reflected in this R value. So if it was a straight line going down, it would be -1, but because it's a little noisy, it makes it less of a correlation, so the R is smaller. And then this final panel here, they are just not related at all. It's just random data, so the correlation is 0. So with that in mind, I'll just let this step forward. So basically what we're going to do is look at the number of fish that were counted at point A, and then look at the number of fish that were counted at point B at the same time. And then we're going to step it back. So we're going to say, what's the relationship between the number of fish at point A and the number of fish at point B 2 days later or 3 days later? So basically what I do is sort of shift this observation back in time to try and line them up. And in each time step I do that, it's going to show this relationship, and it's going to calculate that correlation coefficient. So the blue line's moving back, our relationship is changing, our correlation coefficient is going up as they get closer and closer.
Are we looking at real data now? Or?
Oh, geez, no. I just made this up in the computer. So here at lag 16, we have almost a perfect straight line, and we're almost at 1. And then as we continue on, the relationship kind of degrades as they're not lined up anymore.
So remember you saying it's 16 days between your sonar and the sonar model?
Oh, no, this is made-up data. This is just an example. And then there's some statistical jiggery-pokery you can do to test those points to see if they're different from just random noise or not, which it's doing now. It's just blanking out the ones that are basically noise. And that is what we call a lag correlation. And so this plot here basically tells us the important lag. And like I stopped to show you at 16 days, hours, whatever, I didn't use any time units on this. That's where the correlation is best, and it is not statistical noise, so we can be pretty sure that the lag between those 2 points is 16 days, hours, whatever. Cool?
Okay.
I hope I didn't break the screen. It was better than
Plausible.
I tried to do it with hand waving, and it didn't work. So this is doing just that with the actual data, with our counts at Clear Martin River compared to the Miles Lake counts. And it's just two of those ways to count things. This is just using daily counts, and this is using those 6 hourly counts. And this is that lag in days. And instead of white and black points, I just made the ones that are not noise red. And so in our daily counts, which are kind of coarse, it's right at 2 days, and then when we look at slightly finer detail, it's a little more ambiguous, but something like 1 to 3 days. And I sat down with Google Earth and figured out the distance in river miles from Clear Martin to Miles Lake, and then just divided by that time. And I think it was about a half a meter per second swimming speed, which actually matches up fairly well with sockeye swimming speeds from other well.
So how many miles is it between the two stations?
About 25.
25.
So it matched up with estimates of sockeye swimming speed from other places like the Fraser that have been done by Pete Grant.
That's ground swimming speed, not actual movement through the water, which is,
Right.
water's going the other direction, so they're swimming pretty fast.
Yes, that's true, but that's the fish's problem. So that's where we are from last year. The Marketing Association was happy enough with that they've agreed to do it again this year. And this year we're going to put a sonar on both banks. And instead of the expensive Ditson, we're going to be renting 2 of those Gemini sonars that I'd mentioned. Oh, right. And I have the webpage there for the site. We also put in a proposal last year to actually buy these sonars so that we would not have to rent them every year, because that's about $10,000. And we should be finding out next month if that is happening or not. And if it does, we'll presumably be able to do this going forward into the foreseeable future. And that's all I got for you.
Your half a meter per second speed, what's that break down to between your sonar site and the sonar second? How many days is that?
1 to 3.
1 to 3 days?
Yeah, I think I did the calculations for 2 days.
I would think it would take longer.
Me too.
What did the state think it was? Didn't they think it was longer?
I think it was actually NVE that was doing it at Flag Point, and yeah, they were saying 4 to 7 days.
Right.
Yeah, they did it for longer as well. We were only up there for a fairly short time period, so it's harder to get at longer lags with that.
Do you think the lag might vary with time?
Probably.
So
What
you
about
want to
with
do it,
river flow?
redo the lag calculation?
Sure.
Do the lag calculation once a week or something. Depends how many data you need to do that.
Right. Yeah, when you're only using daily
Yeah.
observations with each lag, you use the
Hourly
data
counts
from
work
another-
better? How about the hourly count?
Hourly counts are noisy enough that it gets complicated. That's why I went with those 6 hourly counts as kind of a compromise.
So you are gonna do it this spring?
We are.
Okay. And then you did say it was like a 1 to 3 day lag for that 25 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And how far north of the markers is the Clear Martin? Do you know that?
I don't. How far up are the markers?
It's gonna be further this year than it's,
Right.
add another 10 miles.
So half a meter per second that's a knot, isn't it? It's pretty much
Yeah,
spot on a knot.
in the
So
grand scheme of things, for
that's 24
a
miles
fish, it's not
a
that
day. It
fast.
should be just 1 day.
Yeah, but if the stream is moving at 2 knots, the lag is coming at 2.5 knots.
Right, yeah, they are going against that current, so
Very short.
their actual speed is.
How fast was the current if you guys did some measurements?
We don't measure that. We don't have a flow meter as far as I'm aware.
Usually.
Yeah, exactly. And as a plug, Pete and Kristen are trying to find money to actually tag fish. So we could really pin down those numbers to individual fish. I was just using basically the relationship between the peaks. And so there's a lot of assumptions in that. If we have tags, then we can actually measure it.
I would guess that the sonar up at the bridge probably doesn't fluctuate with the tide change.
Right.
But I wonder if your site is far enough down to where you would get a slam of fish at low water, more like the fishermen do down by the markers.
Right. I haven't looked. It's a good question.
Because I mean, oftentimes you're doing drifts and you're getting one fish, you're getting 3 fish, you're getting 5 fish, and then you have a low water for a couple hundred.
Right.
And it's like they just appear out of the sand.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, you may be high enough up there where that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
but-
did the crew notice any title
Mm,
differences?
no, they had a stick gauge.
So it's
on
mostly the
river.
river level changing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, if there are tidal effects, they're very, very small. Because there's so many places for the water to go. But they don't have anywhere to really stack up between the bars and the Clear Martin. When we had started, we were a little higher up the cut bank, so they could have literally been piling up below the sonar and then moving through on their own time. But now, the site we went with last year that we'll do again this year is about as far south as we can go, and it's right where the cut bank starts to shallow out into the braided section. So it's a good idea. We'll have a look.
It'd just be interesting to see if it varies.
Mhm.
I mean, fishing, you know, you're not getting 10 fish an hour. You know, you're getting nothing, and then on the tide changes, you're getting a big slug of fish, and then you're getting nothing again. And so,
Right. Yeah, last year, June 1, when we pulled the sonars and got back to town, I actually got a text from Bert Lewis saying, "Why aren't the sonars on? There's a big tide coming. We want the counts." So this year we're gonna go about a week longer.
And what kind of, I saw for the Ditson, it was showing 10 meters out.
Mm-hmm.
Is that basically similar range? You're reading
Yeah.
10 meters
Yes.
from the...
Yeah, the Gemini, it's actually hard to show them at the same time because the Gemini has a way wider field of view, like 3 or 4 times what the Ditson has. So you actually get to see near shore a lot better. It's also a slightly wider beam in the vertical,
And it's cheaper.
and it's cheaper.
But you probably don't get the resolution for the distance out.
The further away you go, the resolution tends to deteriorate. Though the Geminis, they told me that the new version, they've doubled the number of beams, so it's doubled the resolution. So we're looking forward to seeing what they can do.
Did you look at day versus night?
No, you could. It'd be pretty easy.
You automate, these counts are automated.
Not the counts. Yeah,
Okay.
the collection and the
Got it.
saving and the sending to the internet is all automatic. And then the techs would 2 or 3 times a day go look at the saved videos.
Right.
Yeah, when there's not much happening, it's kind of nice because you can speed it up.
Yeah.
And then when there's fish going through nose to tail, you can slow it down to make sure you get a good count. But it basically allows them to, instead of sitting there for shifts all day watching it in real time, they can just do it real quick after it's happened. Ideally, it would be real cool to automate it, and we'll be looking at doing that.
I know a lot of people have tried, and yeah, it's challenging.
It's tough. It's the Copper River with all the turbidity is just super noisy. A lot of the sound gets scattered back, and you saw the videos. They're just really noisy. So it's hard to automate doing that. Human beings are amazing visual processors, and it's easy for us. But to train a machine to do it is tough. But computers are getting smarter and cheaper all the time. So it may be just a matter of finding the right person with the skills. And with higher resolution, maybe we'll be able to do better. Or you're asking about kings. It'd be really neat to be able to size them as well. But it's a non-trivial processing problem.
Have you looked at Image Pro at all? It's a counter, but you can set it up. I don't know whether it'll do a video, but that's what I used when we were counting the annuli and the herring scales. But they have other ways you can counts all different kinds of things.
Yeah, video is basically just a bunch of pictures in time.
Yeah.
But if you think about a fish swimming into a sonar beam in front of your sonar, when it first comes into the beam, it's kind of weak, and then it gets stronger and stronger, but it's flapping its tail, so its size in the sonar changes with every tail beat. So yeah, training something to pick that out and then pick the right picture as it travels across is really tricky.
So can you actually do the tail beat on the fish?
I imagine you could. I can see it.
So you might be able, the Chinook salmon might be a little bit slower beat, you might actually be able to use that to distinguish the species eventually.
Yeah, that's true. That might be an easier way to do it, because just picking it out is easy-ish, and getting a frequency is not super hard. Okay.
So you're talking about buying these, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there been some consideration of using them in the sound for, say, the hogtail weir, or
No, we only use them in the Cover River.
determining the chum
Oh yeah. Yes.
mass?
Once we have them, they just cost a tiny amount of electricity to run, and a little bit of storage to keep the data. So there's any number of things we could use them for, like we talked about it. That was Esser,
Right.
trying to count the deeper fish
Right.
that are not visible. I've talked to the state guys about the weirs. I think the way to go forward with those is actually cameras, because you can actually see them, and when you want to know species, you need to see them.
Right.
But yeah, there's any number of things we could do with them.